Today on the show, how to party like a Catholic, some saints to introduce your younglings to, why this time of year is all about joy, our picks of the week, and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. All righty, we're glad that you're here. Put your hand on the radio. It's time for the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast that tries to cut through the noise of the digital continent and bring you the topics that matter. It's episode number 411. I am somehow Father Chris Decker. Actually, I know how. I'm me.
Yes, you are.
Also joining us, we've got Kathleen Lee. Hey, Kathleen.
Hey.
Right next to her, we have Taylor Rodrigue. Taylor is a super fan who somehow finds her way at the desk. So whenever she wanders into the building, we sit her down behind the microphone. Hey, Taylor.
Hey.
And also Olivia Gulino, our student of life, resident Italian food critic, also wandered into the building.
Fellow wanderer, yes.
Yeah,
Hello.
Put her behind a microphone. Going up to space to the Jeff Star 1 near-Earth orbit satellite.
One, two, test. Is this thing working?
It sure enough does. Jeff Blackwell, I see, is decorating for the Advent season.
Yes, indeed.
And anticipating the one that is to come. Hey, Jeff.
Hello, Father.
And also, Ed Ball is the one who's switching the video. So if you're watching us on the radio or any of the other visual means by which we come to you, hello, that's Ed doing that. I must admit, I have been binge watching on Disney Plus the Imagineering story. I should have just made that my pick of the week. But anyway,
Come on.
It is now.
Yeah, top of the show, pick of the week, new thing, Advent. Anyway, so and so, yeah, that's right. We're crossing the streams there, Olivia. But I've been really interested in just the story of how these beautiful things come to be. And as we at Catholic Underground, we started in 2006, so we've been on the air for quite a while. And yet another Christmas is coming, yet another Advent, here we are, and we're happy to be with you. We thought that we would start the show by partying like Catholics, you know?
Yes.
It's often said that Catholics know how to party,
Party.
especially if you're Kathleen. That's right.
Ain't no party like a Catholic party.
That's very true. So they say. And one of the things about Catholic life is that we feast and we fast. And so the party has a fasting element to it. You know, there are times in which we fast, and that's still a Catholic party. And there are times that we feast, and that's still a Catholic party.
Yep.
You know, so you have your Advent season, which is not typically a season of great fasting, but can be a time of waiting, a time of penance, a time of getting the house cleared out, right? People look east. Do you know that Advent hymn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make your house fair as you are able. Trim the hearth, set the table.
Yeah,
That's
that one.
Advent. And so a party goods company, helps families to celebrate like Catholics in the times of feast and in the times of prep. And so artist Erica Ty Campbell was working as an event calligrapher, which is awesome, by the way, in Los Angeles when she noticed this big hole in the Catholic events market. Even though countless Catholic celebrations take place every year, party goods for those occasions are practically non-existent. Like if you go to your party goods store, you will find the generic things, right?
Yeah. The stuff that's just in like religious associated colors.
Yeah. Halloween, beige and pastels, right? So you'll find Halloween, you'll find Christmas, you'll find Easter, you'll find birthday. You might find some of the sacraments. You might find baptism or confirmation, but again, that's more just the pastels and generic crosses. So she says, and I quote, I noticed the first communion plates at parties were the same ones that I had at my first communion in 1998.
Wow.
Oh, she's a young lady.
Wow.
I feel old now. If your first communion was in 1998, I don't remember. Well, mine would have been in the 80s. Sorry, folks. Why am I on this show? I'm so old. We need to bring a younger one. Anyway, so
You don't want to know when mine was.
yeah, no, I don't. I really don't.
Wait. Can we guess? 2008?
No, that's bad. Yeah. Anyway, beautifully designed
Earlier.
modern products could be a way to engage young people and teach them about their faith, Campbell thought. Moreover, Catholic party goods would be a valuable service to families who are seeking to build faith in their homes. So, as you know, the first place that a child encounters the church, encounters the faith, is in the home. So why wouldn't you want to do something like live the liturgical year? And so that's what she said. A lot of parents, she says, want to celebrate the liturgical year with their kids, but may not have time to plan a lot or don't know where to start. And that's where Campbell's company, Be a Heart, comes in. Be a Heart. Yeah.
She's like you said that she was an event calligrapher. I think I follow her on Instagram.
Oh, really?
And I think she's one of the main contributors to the Blessed Is She
Yes. Oh,
planner.
yeah.
The planner that if you want to be hip, young, Catholic, and female, like you have it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Blessed Is She. Yeah. We've covered. I think we've covered that on the show before.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So I guess I do follow her on the Instagram as well. Anyway, so she has this company, Be a Heart. And she's got an array of paper goods with a Catholic twist, like a Fatima-themed wall garland, Sacred Heart-shaped paper plates, which is awesome. Yeah. For All Saints Day, her shop is stocked with All Saints-themed cups and plates and stickers and cocktail napkins. And then her newest creation, which is a celebration guide for All Saints Day, has the following resources: an All Saints Day party invitation, an 8x10 print download, Saints cupcake toppers. Somewhere, if you're watching us on the video feed on some of our screens, we have some of these things. Saints on the go goodie bags, Saints garlands, holy cards, candle stickers, so you make your own kind of holy candle, 33 recipes and tent cards, 12 All Saints Day costume ideas, which I think is awesome, and then an All Saints Day bingo activity. If you're watching us on the feed, they're the Saints cupcake toppers. So these little paper crafts that just kind of, they're an outline, a little cartoon of the saint, and you stick them right in the cupcake there. And then costume ideas, and she even gives you pictures of what you might wear. Like if you want to be St. Joseph the Worker, throw on an apron, and you can get who doesn't have a tool set somewhere, you know? So there you go.
Oh my gosh, I need all these things.
I was going to say it's
looking at it on
the cute factor is pretty high, I will say, because she draws really well. So like the little images of the saints are fantastic too. They're great little. You know exactly who the saint is. It's not always obvious, but parties are a big part of being Catholic and living out our faith. You know, because we have the high holy days like Christmas and Easter, but there are a lot of smaller feasts and commemorations that dot the calendar throughout the year. And so, for example, say you have a saint that is near and dear to your heart. So like Kathleen, who is your confirmation saint?
Saint Bernadette is my confirmation saint.
Right. And so since that's your confirmation saint, you probably, whenever the Feast of Saint Bernadette pops up, you go, yeah, why don't I do something today?
Yep.
You know? And so this is an opportunity to do that. So maybe some of the not so well-known saints. And so she says, honoring these feasts helps us to stay in rhythm with the larger church, the Church Universal, while remaining within our own homes and creating the domestic churches that the Catechism calls us to build with our families. And that's exactly what the church is supposed to be. It's supposed to be certainly the times in which we come together in a universal sense, when you come together in Rome at St. Peter's or in your parish church, but also in that little core that is your family. And so if you think about it, so like we have the universal Roman calendar, right? That's all Catholics all over the world. In a diocese, we have, like in Louisiana, we have Our Lady of Prompt Succor, Our Lady of Prompt Succor. That's local. And then I actually did something this year because St. John Birchmans, who is my patron, is not on the general Roman calendar, but is on the calendar for Jesuits. I instituted that feast in my parish. And so you see, you have local feasts that can drill all the way down to St. Bernadette in your home. So you actually can kind of develop a calendar, the calendar of saints within your own home, which is kind of a cool thing. And so you're creating the domestic church there. So she says, in the hustle and bustle of every day, it can be hard to make time for the days of celebrating as well as the days of penance. Yet our lives are immeasurably enriched by making space for these ancient devotions. Sometimes something as small as a plate or a cup can be a small symbol of the richness of the liturgical seasons and the rhythm of it. And that's the thing. I think as Catholics, we're called to live the rhythm of the church here. And that's why we have the great seasons of preparation, like Lent and like Advent, and then the great seasons of feast, where we truly get to kind of sit in the midst of that mystery that we're celebrating. So, I mean, if you think about the Christmas season lasts not just the octave days of Christmas, where we spend 8 days almost physically sitting in the manger in a spiritual sense, and then extends all the way through Epiphany Tide and all the way through Baptism of the Lord. And the same thing with Easter. So to be able to live those seasons fully and to be able to do this with your kids, I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love, if you've ever watched the show, you know I love good Catholic crafty things that people can
Kathleen does love a craft.
Yeah, but like things that people have made into a business that are not, that are a very traditional they're very traditional, but in modern things, like she has these swaddling cloths in here that are beautiful.
Yes.
Like, and then I would wrap all kinds of fat little babies in because they're just like they're just so cute, and they're not overtly like they're not overtly. It doesn't say Catholic down the backside of your baby, but it is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
to incorporate into your everyday life, and that can sometimes be, I think. And this is just my humble opinion, but I think that a lot of some people struggle with how do I make it an everyday thing. If you're like, for example, like if you're like me, when I was growing up, I used to have I used to make this prayer corner in my room. Did I ever use it? No, but it looked awesome, right? Because I wanted to have this thing that
constant reminder.
Yeah, that said like I'm Catholic, and for me, it's the same thing with I don't know if this is making any sense, but it's the same thing with journals. I get journals, and I'm like, instead of using them every day, I'm like, well, at least this looks good, right? And these are things that you can use every day, that you can, like even from the time your child is born. Every celebration that they have, every party that they, every feast that you celebrate, is not only just, pink and blue cups. It's, these are the saints. These are people that you should be, incorporating into your everyday life as it is.
That's right.
And I envy my friends who are parents, young parents, who their kids already know the stories of the saints. They already know sayings from the saints.
Yeah, and like they know the hard-hitting saints too.
Right,
like you have a 6-year-old that can quote half of St. Maximilian Kolbe's diaries, and you're like, man, oh man, you've got a head start, and that's a beautiful thing.
How you did that?
That's right. And so these are the ways to be able to do that. She says, that's where Christ is. He's between us and other people, whether the homeless person across the street or my husband across the dinner table. That's what it is to open up your home and your heart. And part of the ways that we can do that is through these little crafty things, these little beautiful works of art, I mean, just her design aesthetic is very solid and very good too. And again, thumbs up for not defaulting to cheese. So many times when Catholics do things, we are tempted to just kind of go, oh, well, it's like this. No, it's got to be on par with or better. And so it's really neat to see that at work. Yeah.
Very good.
So that's if you want to start partying like a Catholic, maybe you haven't learned how well. Be a Heart can help you out. Taylor, you work with kids. And these little simple things probably would speak to their heart, huh?
Oh, yes. I was like watching Kathleen's computer, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so cute to bring to class with this. And I was geeking out.
And it's amazing. It's amazing what young kids, like we think that we have to kind of shelter them from the full brunt of our faith. And we can only like let a little bit out at a time. It's amazing what young people, even especially really young children, they can they soak it in like a sponge. They actually can filter out a lot of the stuff that just doesn't enter in, and then what they do retain, we're then able to kind of amplify, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to introduce your kids to the beauty of our faith. Whether it be a virgin religious or a martyr or a virgin martyr, don't be afraid, because these are the ways that we live the fasts and feasts and the family of the church, because these saints are part of our family, and that's what we believe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, especially kids love heroes. I mean, look at the people on kids' TV shows and movies and things. Like, kids love heroes. And so if you just expose them even the slightest bit to the story of salvation history, the story of any saint, pick a saint. It's going to be the story of a hero living either a quiet life or super kind of more typical heroic life.
And that's what we're seeing, is that you have kids that don't even know the characters in the nativity story, and they only cursorily kind of sort of know the nativity story, but they don't know why it makes a difference and why Jesus is different from any other person born anywhere else.
Right.
And so this is the way to begin to kind of cement it back into your family, in a way that's fun, in a way that's accessible, and in a way that you as a parent kind of have a low level of entry. You can enter kind of slowly and you can, how should we say, without a whole lot of having to have a theology degree. And that's a lot of parents, I think, are afraid of that. They're like, well, I didn't study in a seminary. Well, no, many don't. But your home can become a seminary if you dig deep into the faith that is there. Now that you have the internet, there's really no excuse as to why we can't dig deep into some of these things, So that's just an option for you, especially as we make our way into this new liturgical season for us here in 2019. It's hard to believe, I know. Another thing that's hard to believe is that we are the Catholic Underground. You are listening to the Catholic Underground. You perhaps are watching it too, if you are spry. We're online at catholicunderground.tv. I'm Father Chris, joined by Kathleen and Taylor and Olivia and Jeff. Ed's over there too. Our picks of the week are coming up. But first, kind of dovetailing off of the last segment, introducing your kids to the saints in your home is important, not just with crafts, but also in telling their stories. Yes.
Okay. So Advent can be completely by us Catholics can sometimes be completely ignored. I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes I get to the fourth Sunday and I'm like, wait, how did we light the other 3 candles? I don't know what happened. We get so wrapped up in what's going on for the holidays, right? We got to get a Christmas tree. We got to decorate the house. We got to clean the house. We got to cook for whatever party we're going to. We got to shop for a list of people. We got to make our own list, which I still do at 33 years old, and I'm not ashamed. But there are so many things that we can get wrapped up in that we miss that idea of the liturgical flow of our calendar. And December comes with it some really great feast days for saints. 6 to be exact that we're going to talk about tonight, that some of you may know are around in December, and some you may not. But this is an important time, as you're preparing for the birth of Christ, right? As we prepare our hearts, we look to these saints to maybe see how to prepare ourselves, especially those saints that challenge us. And if any of these, as we're going through kind of like, oh man, I really need to work on that, spend some time with them this Advent, because through their intercession, they can pull that gentleness, that kindness, that humility out of you.
And it's worth saying, before you can introduce them to your kids, you have to get to know them. Let them get to know you as well, those saints, huh?
Exactly.
And especially, it's kind of like an oxygen mask. Place it first on yourself and then on the child.
Yeah. And especially for our kids, when we can get so wrapped up in the kids are, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? Well, let's talk about what we're going to celebrate and maybe what we're going to give. So number 1 is Saint Nicholas himself.
The giver.
Okay. Now, we all know St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, but did you know that his feast day is not December 25th? Surprise! That's Jesus' birthday. His feast day is December 6th. Yep. Now, he was a 4th century bishop from the Byzantine Empire, and he's long been considered a powerful intercessor due to the many miracles that are associated with him. Now, hailing from a wealthy Greek family, he had a generous and humble nature that urged him to help others anonymously.
He snuck those bags of gold down the chimney,
right? So
that those 3 young women would have dowries to be able to be married and not have to be given over to a life of ill repute.
Yes, and from this comes,
nobody knew.
Right?
But everybody knew.
Everybody did. Yeah.
I know.
And from this comes the legendary figure that we now know as Santa Claus. So this is a good idea to teach your children and maybe yourself about the beauty of giving through this inspiring saint. Not just getting, but giving. And maybe if you're a gift giver like me, that's one of my love languages, giving anonymously. I want people to know that I gave you this gift. So that's number 1. I know.
You have to be introduced to Saint Nick.
All these saints, I'm like going through going, yep, spending some time with you, talk to you tomorrow. All right. Our next one is Saint Juan Diego, who celebrates his feast, or we celebrate his feast on December 9th. Now, he is one of Mexico's most important saints. He's a 16th century Catholic convert who was visited by the Virgin Mary. And she actually told him to ask the bishop to build a shrine in her honor. Now, this did not go over so well, and the bishop doubted the authenticity of this
of Juan Diego,
right? Of Juan Diego, of this apparition. He asked Juan Diego for proof, and so Mary visited him again and told him to pick roses for the bishop. And this was during the winter. Down here in Louisiana, we probably would have roses because it's not that big a deal, right? But this was a big deal in the middle of winter to have roses. And so when Juan Diego opened his cloak to show the roses to the bishop, it was miraculously imprinted with the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And many of you have seen this.
That's right. The cloak is still there today.
Now the bishop had the evidence that he needed to build the church, to build the shrine.
And he did.
And Juan Diego actually spent the rest of his life in a hut near the church, caring for all the pilgrims who visited the shrine. So his story is one of complete faith and dedication to God through devotion to the Blessed Mother. And so that might be something that you're looking at for yourself or for your kids. What is Mary's role? Maybe this is a time for you to focus on her role in the Nativity, maybe a little bit differently this year. I don't know. Next, we have, of course, Our Lady of Guadalupe, who we celebrate her on December 12th.
Right.
And so, of course, she appeared to Juan Diego. She is honored. Mary is honored as Our Lady of Guadalupe. In her visits, Mary showed her reassuring motherly nature. She not only spoke to Juan Diego in his native tongue, which was Indian, not Spanish.
Yeah, kind of an Aztec, Tenochtitlan kind of.
But she was able to instill in him enough courage to carry out her instructions. Her feast day, halfway through Advent, is a perfect opportunity for children or for us to honor the Mother of God as they await the birth of her Son. Sometimes we see Mary as this silent figure throughout Scripture. She doesn't say very much, but her role is always one of encouragement, just think of a great mother who's like, you can do it. You can do this. I'm asking this of you, and I'm going to give you the courage and the strength to do that. So Our Lady Guadalupe, December 12th. Now, the day after that, December 13th, we celebrate St. Lucy.
Well, she's behind Kathleen's shoulder there.
Ooh,
yeah.
Look at it.
If you're watching her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a 4th century saint, and she died during the early Christian persecutions. And there's not a lot of factual information about her. She's said to have displayed great bravery at a time when professing the Christian faith often meant torture and death. Her name means light. Lucy means light. And she is a patron of those with eye disorders.
Which makes for some interesting statuary.
Yes, she holds two see, in that picture, if you're watching us, she's holding two eye flowers. It looks like.
That's right. Yeah.
Oftentimes she is depicted holding a plate with eyes on it. Her great courage is demonstration for children to stand firm in their faith, even if they face adversity for their beliefs, which is very important in today's.
That's a big deal for young children nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Now that was December 13th. So the next day, December 14th, we celebrate Saint John of the Cross. He was a Carmelite priest who was a mystic, a poet, and a reformer. And his actions and beliefs saw him ostracized at times, leaving him isolated. But in that isolation, he became closer to God. A lot of times we're afraid to face isolation in our society. And really what that is an opportunity to grow closer to God, to rely on the one who created us, who calls us, who loves us into being. Right? His struggles actually brought more power and understanding to his work, reminding him that in life it's necessary to accept the cross, St. John of the Cross, and unite yourself with God. Yeah,
some of his poetry, which would probably, it might be a bit much for kids, but it's good for you as adults to read. It shows the unity of the soul with Christ and just kind of the beauty of what that is.
This is a really cool saint for kids because it shows that whatever hardships we go through, a lot of times kids end up feeling really alone or are bullied or ostracized, or they feel like they have no friends at times in their life. It's a reminder that the Lord is always at our side.
Yeah, John of the Cross was bullied. He was locked in a prison for trying to reform his order by calling it back to God. So really cool saint. Now, skip ahead a few days to December 21st. It's funny, we're not even at Christmas yet. This is crazy.
I know, but we're almost there. December 21st, you're wrapping up the last presents. You're making, final menu choices for your Christmas.
Spectacular.
What are you going to do? Celebrate the feast of St. Thomas the Apostle. This dude is probably, next to Peter,
he's pretty famous.
Yeah, but he's one of my favorites because there are a lot of times I'm like, really, Lord?
Thomas is one that adopted Kathleen early on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
We were talking before the show about how long we've known each other, And Thomas has known you for a while.
He's known me for quite a long time. Yes. So as we know, he is more commonly known as Doubting Thomas. The apostle story is one that shows children that it's okay if they question their faith. And that was one of the greatest pieces of advice that I had from Father Chris, who was at the time a seminarian. And I said, I don't believe in this God thing. And he's like, listen, belief isn't always a part of the journey. What's most important is that you continue your journey. And for Thomas, he had a pretty major bout of doubt, right? Pretty public display, but he sought out Jesus anyway.
He became believing Thomas.
Right. So, if they ask help of the saints, they'll find the answers. There's so many saints out there. And as a parent, as an adult in a child's life, who you can kind of nudge their way. Hey, why don't you check? I've had so many students that have come up to me saying, "Yeah, look, Miss Lee, I'm dealing with this." I'm like, you know what? You should read about this dude. Totally up your alley. And if you don't know, pray to the saints and say, "Hey, look, help me find a saint for my child." That's why we pray to the saints for their intercession. And they're not sitting around waiting for us to, like we said earlier, they're not waiting around for us to come to them. They're chasing us down sometimes. And it's the same thing for our kids. And they need to know that that the Lord is always with them, but so are these powerful, powerful people that we call saints. They walk with us in our everyday. They give us strength to live the gospel, to live the faith, confident that Jesus is at their side always. And that's how we become saints, when we pray to and we follow the lives of the saints as well.
That's right. As we say, the saints are part of our family. There is no separation other than the veil, the veil that veils all peoples right now. But as you'll be hearing it with Isaiah, and have heard and will hear, that the Lord is waiting to unveil the veil that veils all peoples. And the saints help to peel back that veil that we see, right? All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll veil ourselves momentarily, but we'll be right back. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. To speak before that hit on the Farfisa. Welcome back. You found an Advent version of the Catholic Underground with me, Father Chris Decker, joined by Kathleen Lee, Taylor Rodrigue, Olivia Gulino, Jeff Blackwell, and Ed Ball. Our picks of the week are indeed coming up after all of this music, But first, we want to spend a little bit of time kind of unpacking what we have to look forward to. And we often talk about anticipating in the Advent season. What is it that we're anticipating?
Joy.
That
Yay.
is correct.
10 points for me. So the season of Advent, you might hear about joyful expectation or anticipation. And even in the church, you're probably familiar with the fact that we have 4 weeks of Advent, the third of which is...
Yeah, go ahead.
What? Everyone? Different color candle? Rose? Gaudete Sunday,
All right, I didn't want to be the only one, because, I know, I've already set out my rose vestment,
You already, and congratulations, thank you for wearing a rose vestment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So the third Sunday of Advent really highlights this. It's called Gaudete Sunday, and Gaudete in Latin, it's not just the word for joy, but it means rejoice, and it's like the imperative, like you rejoice.
Yeah, the te on the end of it is saying you rejoice.
Yeah, like you. Not just rejoicing as if it's this conceptual idea that I don't know if I have time, right? No, it's like you rejoice.
Gaudete in Domino semper. Rejoice in the Lord always.
Yeah, and
Iterum dico gaudete. I say it again. Rejoice. Sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
So, especially because that's the third week of Advent, we're like rounding the corner, we're coming back around the track, and we're getting close to the birth of Jesus, right? A lot of times during the season of Advent, you might be having like Christmas parties, or even though it's not Christmas, but like, staff Christmas parties
Holiday
at work.
time parties.
Yes. Hanukkah parties. No.
Yeah, I'd be down with a good Hanukkah party.
Thank you. Me too.
That's also a season of joy and anticipation.
Yes.
That is fulfilled in the incarnation of Jesus Christ.
It is indeed. Davvero.
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
But a lot of times, what I've noticed too is that, people, we love Christmas. Like you ask someone what their favorite holiday is, they're probably going to say Christmas. And what I've found is that we, 9, 10, 12 months out of the year, maybe not a whole 12 months, but like 11 months out of the year, we're looking forward to Christmas because we know that it's coming. We know that it's a beautiful time of year. We know that it's, a time when generally, eventually things slow down, right? Even though it's busy and frenetic leading up to Christmas. But, generally speaking, favorite holiday. But then what I've often found too is that people love Christmas, and then as it gets closer and closer, they start to get a little more like afraid of Christmas. Like the actual coming of Christmas, because once it comes, it ends. Or
for many.
Yeah. Or once it comes, it just highlights all of the things that like maybe we wish were better, right? Like whether it's family relationships, maybe it's loneliness, maybe it's just like financial struggles, whatever it is, sometimes Christmas has a way of highlighting those things. And so we get afraid, right? And so Advent then becomes a season where it's like, well, I don't know that I can really feel joy because I feel a lot of sorrow too, and I don't know how to hold those things together. But we're here to tell you that joy and sorrow can exist together.
That's right.
Aren't you happy about that?
We are indeed Catholic, and that means that we have no problem living in a paradox.
Exactly. And not just that, but like I think that if we understood joy better, and I count myself in this too, if we understood what it means to be joyful, then we would have a better acknowledgement, a sense of acknowledgement when it comes.
Yep.
But then also a better way of handling when it feels like there's not joy or when there's other things mixed with our joy. And so we wanted to look at the Bible and our tradition, our sacred tradition, to discover some different things about the experience of joy that maybe will help to like recalibrate us in thinking differently about joy and helping us to anticipate it, right? Because the joy, what is it? Who is it that wrote Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring? Is it Mozart?
Was that Mozart or Bach? I don't know.
Mozart or Bach? I don't know, one of those, right? But like God, Jesus, the God-man,
or was
really
it
is.
Beethoven?
Is it Beethoven?
Nope, it was Bach.
Bach. Bach.
Bach to the future. Keep going.
Bach. Yes. Right. So, but I think about that a lot, like Jesu, joy of man's desiring, right? Jesus really is our joy. So as we anticipate his coming in the season of Advent, when he comes at Christmas, we can really spend this time reflecting and learning about joy. So the first of those things that we can pull from our tradition and scripture is that joy is the fruit or the consequence of knowing that God is near. And I love the idea that we get to reflect on that, because it's not something I don't think that we readily think about when we think about God, right? I don't think we often reflect on the nearness of God. I think we're more inclined to think about God's distance, right? Or the perceived distance between me and God, right? Or the otherness of God, that God is just completely transcendent, and what do I know about God?
It's interesting that you say that, because I'm reminded, I hope I'm not jumping ahead in your chat, but
go ahead, spoil it.
But the first preface of Advent, so at Mass, and as part of the Eucharistic prayer, the priest prays the preface to kind of give you this is what we're doing today to prepare for the Eucharist. And so part of that prayer is, for he assumed at his first coming the lowliness of human flesh, and so fulfill the design you formed long ago, open the way for us to eternal salvation, that when he comes again in glory and majesty, and all is at last made manifest, we who watch for that day may inherit the great promise in which now we dare to hope. And so we dare to hope because we are longing to experience the joy of Christ coming in the flesh and Christ coming for us on the last day.
Yeah, because you have to think about, like, nearness needs an object, right? Nearness to, nearness with. nearness for a purpose, right? And we are the subject of that nearness, right? And when God is desiring to be near, he desires to be near to us.
That's right.
That's the whole point of salvation history.
It's really hard for us, I think, especially nowadays, to really let that sink in, because we, as you say, we perceive God's distance, but not his nearness.
Yeah. And one of the easiest ways I think that we can do that, number one, is just reflecting on Scripture, which we'll go to some of those in just a second. But also just the idea that, or not the idea, the reality that God is near us in the Eucharist, right? That's like Pope Benedict XVI wrote an entire book on the Eucharist, and he called it God is near us. But also, St. Bernard of Clairvaux talks about how there's not just one incarnation, but there's three incarnations, right? There's the incarnation of Christ in the Nativity.
Yes.
There's the incarnation of Christ in our hearts. Yep. But in order to have that third in our incarnation, we have to have the second one, which is Christ being incarnated on the altar every single day, every single minute.
It's right? Okay. We'll wait for you. We know that your minds have exploded. All right, and we're coming back.
And we're back. Yeah. Right. But if you ever need to think about God's nearness to you, I tell this to anyone I give a talk to. If you ever need to think about the fact that you are loved and the fact that God desires to be near to you, just breathe. Because if you can breathe, God is upholding you in love at this very minute. And if he wasn't, you would cease to exist. Not that you would die, you just would dissipate into nothingness, right?
I told my 8th and 10th graders that, and we had to pick up the pieces because they were like, wait, what? Like, exactly.
That was a phrase, and I forgot where I heard it from, but one of the phrases that stuck with me for a very long time, that even the very breath you breathe is borrowed. And so I think about that all the time when I'm like, oh my gosh, my life. And it's like,
use it well, Kathleen.
Right?
Use it well.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like that a lot.
And Jeff, use it well, Jeff. Yeah.
Go ahead and text that to me.
Oh, got you.
But I think part of the reason why a lot of us struggle to find joy at Christmas is because we confuse joy with feeling good.
Yeah.
But joy is more persistent than just a feeling, right? Especially, this is not an idea or an attitude that's familiar to us, especially because, you watch movies, Christmas movies, on a certain channel this time of year, and the joy of Christmas that they talk about, that they display for you, is very much sentimental and saccharine and kind of shallow, right? It's a joy that's like, well, that could pretty easily be thrown out the window if one bad thing happens. And
also, joy is not manufactured, right?
Exactly.
It is it's a fruit. It's a fruit of things coming about.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually is a great segue into the second feature of joy, especially that we can find in the Bible, is that joy comes about through God's saving work. Right? The salvation history is God's saving action in human history, right? God wants to save us. And he's proved that to us time and time and time again. No matter how many screw-ups we have. You read the Old Testament, all screw-ups, right?
You give us the covenants to teach us to look forward to salvation.
Exactly.
As if to say the covenants are there, and when we as frail human beings step away, it's teaching us to look forward to something even greater.
Exactly. And because God never abandons us to our sin. God always intends to save us. God always intends, what is salvation? Salvation is that drawing near, right? The closer we come to God's heart, the holier we become, the holier we are. And so the realization that we have to come to is that God's presence among his people is not static. It's very dynamic. It involves movement. It involves flesh. It involves
people.
People, right? And when his people experience salvation, there's joy and it's abundant, right? We hear in 1 Samuel, we see this with Hannah, Hannah's song in 1 Samuel chapter 2. She talks about exulting in Yahweh, for I rejoice in your deliverance, right? And then with Mary, whose song in Luke's gospel very much mirrors Hannah's song in 1 Samuel, right? She says that her spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for the Almighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name, right? And so there's great joy, even though, think about what she's experiencing. She's going to be the mother of the Savior, and nobody knows, right?
Mary knows.
Mary knows.
Let me just
Elizabeth
say that
knows.
now.
Yeah.
Mary did. She did.
She did know. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Magnificat.
We're not even doing this right now. Right. We can talk about that.
Very, very
That'll be a post show. Yeah.
That's right.
Post show. But we also see it in the different parables in Luke too, right? So the stories about the lost sheep, the lost coin, the prodigal son, they find things that are lost to them, and they rejoice in these ways that, like, you look at them and they're crazy, right? So for someone to go after one sheep and to leave 99 behind is insane, right?
It's bad business.
It's bad business, right? Think of it as like a CEO has 100 employees. One doesn't show up for work, and he goes to that person's house and looks for him. No, that people don't do that, right? But that just goes to show you that the love of God is radical, and so the joy that meets that love is pretty radical, right? And so it's okay that love is abundant, and it's going to be persistent. Right? It's a love that's a joy that's based on God's love, and that love is eternal. And so it also teaches us that joy that's produced from God's action always moves us towards harmony and right order and being restored to God's heart. So God's Spirit's always leading us into this deeper communion with each other and with Him. It moves us out of our slavery into freedom, right? Which often involves pain or separation anxiety or suffering, something like that, because we get very attached to the things that enslave us sometimes.
Yeah, as one of my favorite artists, Jars of Clay, says, I've got to admit, I love these chains.
Yeah.
Walking around this cage sometimes has its advantages. Like, I don't have to do anything that requires anything of me.
Yeah.
And we can mistake that slavery for joy because it's comfortable. And yet it's excruciating for the same reason, because we know it's not authentic joy. It's trying to find some form of it's trying to find some sort of world that we create for ourselves. Rather than saying, okay, Lord, set me free. And that requires something of me. It means that I'm then responsible for what you're asking me to do what is best rather than what I want, which is what the chains are all about.
Yeah. Well, and I think too from what you were just saying, I think too about Plato's cave analogy, his allegory of the cave, right? So there's these, like, the light from outside is projecting these shadows onto a wall, and these people inside the cave think that that's all that exists of reality, is these figures that appear in shadow. And then one person makes it outside the cave, sees the light, sees reality, sees the things that are making the shadows, and then tries to go back in and say, no, like, you don't understand, there's so much more than this. And hardly anyone follows him. Right?
That can't be possible. We've seen the shadows. That's enough.
Exactly, right? And so it just goes to show you, too, that, like, it's not just in the recognition that there's something greater, but the risk to follow it, right? Because there's a risk in going into a world where it's unknown, right? But also knowing that if it's God who's calling us into freedom, it's God who will lead us and who will be with us, right? Think about God's presence among his people in the desert, right? They're in the desert for 40 years, and they didn't have to be in the desert for 40 years. It could have taken about a week, right? But God stays with them because he loves them, and he knows that this is their journey to freedom, all right? And the third feature of joy is that the experience of joy from God's salvation always should lead us to worship, right? Which then leads to more joy, right? So think about one of the Psalms, Psalm 43. Then I will go unto the altar of God, unto God my exceeding joy, right? Joy should overflow so much, that presence, being in the presence of God, being in that intimate relationship with God, being drawn into his own heart, should lead us to such a joy that it just overflows, and it just has to lead to worship. It has to lead to a giving back.
That in the extraordinary form of the Mass, that is the very first thing that is said. In Troibo ad altare Dei.
Therefore I will go into the altar of the Lord.
Yeah, exactly. Ad Deum qui laetificat juventutem meam, to God who gives joy to my youth, right? Who rejuvenates me, right? That's the word we get for rejuvenation. That the notion that joy leads to worship, and worship is done most especially at the altar.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, if you read, like, Exodus, whenever God is sending Moses to free his people from slavery, he says, tell Pharaoh to let my people go that they may serve me, right? That they may worship me. This is what we were created for, because this is what most puts us in touch with who God is, right? If we want to know who God is, then we experience that joy that leads to worship, right? And that's not something that should be and can be confined to our private life, right? That's why worship is a communal activity, right? That's why we go into these communal spaces called churches to pray and to offer sacrifice together as one family.
That's right. Even in hermitages, they come together for the celebration of the Mass.
Exactly. because the joy of some is the joy of all, right? And just like the sorrow of some is the sorrow of all, or the sin of some is the sin of all, right? We have this corporate mentality, this collective mentality, which means that just like we suffer together, we're also experiencing joy together, and that's the joy of worship. So a fourth feature of joy is that it's not just rooted in God, but in the ways of God.
Yes.
And so these are the ways of God that we have to embrace fully if joy is to stay ours, right? Because they have the experience of joy. Joy overflows, leads to worship. But then it's like, how do you keep that going, right? It's that like after retreat experience of like, but I want to stay here forever,
right,
you know?
Yeah, the mountaintop. We want to stay on the mountaintop because we think that the joy can sustain itself.
Yeah.
By our actions. Like if I just remain here, then the joy will continue.
The honeymoon phase.
The honeymoon phase, of conversion, of retreat high, of sometimes of life experiences, marriage, any of the major sacraments.
Yeah. And the reality is that joy subsists on things that maybe are not always glamorous, but things like justice and truth, right?
Yeah, like when you're married and the honeymoon is long over, the thing that brings joy is living for my spouse, right? The daily crucifixion that I allow myself for my spouse. In my case, as a priest, once the oil dries on your hands from ordination, and you get to work with those hands, the thing that brings joy is spilling your life for your people, being present to them. Yeah. And that takes vulnerability, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, think about the Beatitudes, right? The Beatitudes are things that are pretty much like descriptors of vulnerability, but they're also the things like the blessed, right?
Yeah,
blessed.
That's what makes you holy.
Yeah. Blessed is just another way of saying happy, right? So if you want to be happy, we have to work in these ways that ultimately mean our own vulnerability. But vulnerability is just a way of entering deeper into love, right? And so St. Augustine says that the happy life is joy based on the truth, right?
Yes.
Ultimately, God who is the truth, but then the truth just lived out in daily living.
Which is not always glamorous, as you say.
Not always glamorous. Sometimes very unglamorous.
Sometimes it's just not losing it in traffic.
Yeah. Don't say that. All right. So,
sorry. Yep.
A fifth aspect of joy is that it is possible to have, like we said, even in the midst of suffering and loss. And that's something that a lot of times around Christmas, we start to realize like what has happened or what has changed since last Christmas. And sometimes the changes are not happy changes, right? Sometimes there are things that are like, oh, I don't want to have to relive that.
Yeah.
But we hear from the prophet Habakkuk. We don't often hear from him, but we do hear from him here. He says, though the fig tree should not blossom and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail, yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation, right? Even when all seems lost, even when it seems like maybe there's no reason to be joyful, we can always fall back on like the wood of the cross is sturdy, right? We can always fall back on Christ. We can always fall back on who Jesus is, and we can always fall back on the reality that, you know what, in every situation, blessed be God, right? And that then
sorry.
No, go.
That was a hard lesson for me to learn. Actually, it was a few years back that Father Matthew sat down with me. And as we're going through all the segments, I'm like, oh, this circles back completely to my time when I was like, I keep going in and out of desolation. And I remember telling him, I was just like, I am chained down. I don't know what to do. I'm just chained down. And he was just like, we need to look back at those moments. Like, what are those wounds that are holding you down that you're so content in, and find where God was in those moments. Because just because there was suffering doesn't mean he wasn't present.
Right.
If anything, he was more near than you noticed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was going through and pretty much reliving every one of those memories that I can now like look back and be like, okay, this might have been painful, but this is.
That's right. This is where the Lord wishes to extract salvation and extract resurrection.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of tying that to the realization that like the joy that we experience in this life is nothing compared to the joy that awaits us in heaven, right? So even those sufferings that can be tied up with joy, okay, those are just things that like put us on that path, maybe a little more prominently in our minds. We can think about how they put us more on that path of salvation. And really getting in touch with the anticipation of joy, right? The anticipation of something far greater than we could ever imagine. A joy that we can't experience certainly in this life, and we can't even fathom it.
Right.
But having hope that it, number one, it exists, and number two, that it's promised to us. And then the final kind of foundation of joy is just realizing that God himself is joyful.
Yeah.
Right? God himself is love, he's joy, he's mercy. And so if we really spend time in contemplation of that, and the fact that he's an overabundance of love, again, that's why you and I exist, because love is creative, right?
Yeah.
If you exist because your parents loved each other and that love created a third person, right? That's what the Trinity is.
Yeah.
It's two divine persons who love each other to the point where there's another divine person.
That's right. They spirate another divine person.
Exactly.
There's your $5 word for the day.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
But really contemplating, maybe challenging those pre-existent ideas in our minds of God as whatever, right? Fill in the blank. God as overbearing. God as distant. God as challenging. God as punishing. Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Challenging those ideas. And reflecting on, with the help of Scripture, God as love and God as joy, and the God who wants us near.
Zephaniah, again, God will rejoice over you with happy song. He will dance with shouts of joy for you. Do not mourn or weep, for the joy of the Lord is our strength. Nehemiah.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things that we don't just sing, and they're not just kind of syrupy things that are in the Scriptures. No, this is God revealing something of his inner life, of his character to us, you know? And I think that's one of the things that can happen in our society is we either think that that God is all happiness all the time and never challenging, never dying, never being crucified, or he is the opposite of that. He is always glum and always sad and always angry. And no, that's not an accurate portrayal of who God is. How do we know who God is? Well, he tells us. He tells us in the Scriptures, and he reveals his entire person to us in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus, who is like us in all things but sin, and who shared the many different emotions that we have and the many different dispositions of spirit that we are also called to participate in. Yeah. Well, I guess we could keep going, but effectively it's important that you know that Christianity is a religion of joy. We as Christians bring glad tidings to humanity, and that's what we're called to do. So Olivia, good job there on reintroducing us to joy, and hopefully if you haven't heard it, this is a joyful message to you, so be joyful of heart. Something else we hope may bring a little joy to your heart is that part of the show that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week.
Alrighty, for our first pick of the week, we're going to go back over to Olivia. Yeah,
Thank you, finally. Okay, well, my pick of the week... No, my pick of the week is something that I've picked every Advent, I think maybe since I've been on the Catholic Underground, but...
Worth picking again.
Worth picking again. So it's St. Bernard of Clairvaux's sermons on Advent and Christmas. I recommend them every year because they change my life every year. This is something that I try to do every Advent and then into the Christmas season to reflect on. A lot of that stuff that I was talking about today is just stolen straight up from St. Bernard. But especially if you want to enter in more deeply to this season of Advent, if it's something that's difficult for you or you just don't understand why we're reading all these crazy things that we never read otherwise, or why is there going to be a genealogy? I don't want to read a genealogy, right? Think about if you were looking for spiritual reading in the time of Advent, again, can't recommend it enough. And I think I found a way to read it online without having to buy the book. So
because it's so old, it's in public domain.
Yeah, because St. Bernard has not been around for a good nigh on 800 years or something like that. So, yeah. So we'll put that link in the show notes too. But of course, the book is available anywhere books are sold.
Indeed. All right. Well, I guess since Taylor is in the video shop, Taylor, do you have your pick of the week? Have you found one?
Actually, yes.
Good
As we
for
were
you.
going through
All right.
that last segment, I was like, oh, this would fit perfectly.
Excellent. What you got?
So it's yet again another book.
Yep.
It's called Be Healed, a guide to encountering the powerful love of Jesus in your life.
Okay.
And like when I mentioned that a few summers back, like I learned through that lesson, those wounds I needed to get over.
Yeah.
Father Matthew introduced me to this book, and we pretty much sat and went through it together. And
Fantastic.
It brought a very great awareness. Like those wounds have names. They have relations to sin, but then they also show the relations to that joyful aspect as well.
Yeah. Who's
How to
the
overcome
author?
it.
Bob Schutz?
Yes. My phone went off as I did it.
All right. Well, that's
But
important
yes,
for me to know
it's
because I'm going to put it in the show
And it's a
notes.
very light read too. It's light
good.
in its easy read.
Fantastic. Excellent. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Kathleen.
Excellent. Okay, if you are like me and you have to get a gift for everyone, your bank account may be running dry. But a good place to find good gifts, especially like housewarming gifts if you're going to someone's house for a party or you are looking for a good dish to make something in, Home Goods.
Yes, John.
Look, it's the perfect place to buy
a store.
It's a store.
Okay.
Now you can go to the website, but you can't buy anything off the website because it's like
It's like Overstock.
yeah, it's kind of like Overstock, but
I
it's
see.
classy
Marshall
stuff.
type
Yeah,
I see.
this is classy stuff. So, Home Goods, if you're looking for a last minute gift, you know, a last minute blanket, pillow, whatever, Home Goods.
All right.
There it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Jeff, your
I'm just glad you didn't recommend the blood bank or a pawn shop. Anyway.
It's a family show.
It is, and mine is really for adults. This is a libation.
Okay.
It's,
All right.
it's made by Rum Haven, and it's a coconut water rum.
Oh.
So
wow.
it's just kind of one of those things that's really nice to finish off a meal with, a little sipping, you know, and it's just delightful.
A sipping rum is never a bad thing.
It's very, very smooth. So
Very cool. We'll put that in the show
all
notes
right,
as well.
for what it's
My pick of the week I'm actually wearing. I just realized.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So I was in need of a new scapular because,
Yeah.
you know, I go through them. They wear out after
Yes,
a
they
while. And so the folks at scapulars.com have a scapular that's quite robust. The cord is pretty darn strong. And the thing that really makes it fantastic is that it's got a little pocket in the top of the scapular so you can fit your medals in it. So like my Benedictine medal is in here. And except for the fact that my miraculous medal is so large, it doesn't quite fit in
people with
there.
that. Okay.
You really could, yeah. But I've had this for so long that this is my miraculous medal, you know. So yeah, that's scapulars.com. They usually have sales around Christmas tide and whatnot. So that's my pick of the week. I'll put a link to them in the show notes.
The real thing I like about that too is it keeps it weighted down because
It does.
the scapular will always work its way.
That's true, and kind of choke you at night if you wear yours to bed like I do. Yeah, that's true. That's right. Yeah, very good. Well, Jeff, we are always grateful for those who support us with their prayers and finances. To all our benefactors, watchers, and listeners, thank you.
Absolutely. This week, the Catholic Underground is possible because of people like you. Join the growing number of undergrounders at CatholicUnderground.com/donate. And an important way to support us is to like us, heart us, star us, and share us on your social media platform of choice, Father.
That's right. And don't forget to leave a review in any of the places you can do that.
Where you
Please
can
do
it.
that. Yeah.
Please.
That way other people can listen to what you say and not just what we say about the show. So thank you to those of you who've done that. Our panelists this week have been Kathleen Lee. She's the benefactress. Kathleen, thank you.
Anytime.
Olivia Gulino is at the.real.omg on all of the socials media.
It's true. Thank you for putting the dots where they belong.
I'm trying to. I'm trying. Also, Taylor Rodrigue, super fan and sitting at the desk. Thanks for joining us, Taylor.
No problem.
Also, our technical director, Jeff Blackwell. He's at Jeff Blackwell us on Twitter and on Instagram. Thank you, Jeff.
It's a privilege, Father.
Our research assistant, the leader of the crew in the lab, is Jim Hayes. Thank you, Jim, for all that you do for all these calendar years you've been with us. Our video and graphics director is Ed Ball. And thou knowest me, I be Father Chris. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Digital Catholic if you so dare. We hope that we've helped you cut through the noise and find that still small voice this Advent. We are the Catholic Underground, where faith gone digital somehow, and we will see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.